Here we are with my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer, Steve Flink. He's in New York. I've been missing him. And he is not in Roland Garros, but he's covering everything. He knows everything. He can listen to the interviews. He sees the matches. He knows much more than I do. Ciao, Steve. How are you?
I'm fine, Ubaldo. That's not entirely true, but I appreciate the compliment.
Listen, Steve. I am sure that you're very, very surprised that one semifinal will be played by Djokovic and Nadal. I'm sure you couldn't expect that.
No, it's shocking. I think we're all stunned by it. We thought it was going to be Berrettini against Schwartzman in the semifinal. No, I think we're all.
I wish it was like that, to be honest. Even
No,
if
but
I love Djokovic, I love Nadal, but Berrettini, I would have been happy for it.
Ubaldo, to your point, I was really stunned by Berrettini's level the last two sets. I never thought that it would play out quite that way because he played well in the first set and he made Djokovic work hard and Djokovic saved break points in three different service games. So it was not a typical 6-3 set. But then I thought Djokovic seemed to have it under control when he won the second 6-2. And then obviously we went to that third set tiebreak. But the whole way that Berrettini played, the explosive serving and the forehand in the third set were spectacular. And then Djokovic got very nervous at 5-4 in the tiebreak with the two bad errors. The next thing you know, we're in a fourth set. And I thought Berrettini did very well all the way through the fourth. He almost got it in another tiebreak.
Yeah.
Weren't you surprised that he came back that strong from two sets down?
Well, in a way, yes, because the only time that they had played, it was at the ATP finals,
Right, right.
and Berrettini had lost badly,
Yeah,
But at the same time, Berrettini had lost very badly also against Federer in Wimbledon in the last 16,
yeah, right.
6-2, 6-1, 6-2, 6-2,
Wow.
and then when he played again Federer at the ATP finals, he gave him
Match.
a
Yeah,
match,
yeah.
So same thing happened today, and I asked my question to Berrettini at the end, saying, "Look, I was really impressed by your third and fourth set," and he said, "I think I play." He answered me. He said, "I think I played pretty well also the first set."
He did.
Because,
He did. He did, Ubaldo. He's right about that. The first set, the score doesn't tell us everything because Djokovic had three games. He was down break points, including the very first game of the match. And then Djokovic also had another game at 3-1 that went to deuce a few times. He had trouble closing it out, and he managed to hold. So there's no doubt that Berrettini was very much in it in the first set, and Djokovic just played the bigger points better. So I do agree with him. I do agree with him, and he didn't play a bad second. Djokovic was playing beautifully, I thought. Djokovic served well the whole match. Never
yeah,
lost his serve.
he never lost, as you were
Yeah,
saying, he never
right,
lost his serve. He had to save only three break points
right,
altogether.
right.
So for sure, and he was very happy about his serve. He said that at the end of the match. What gives me the impression that Djokovic was very happy about not going to the fifth set was his reaction at the end of the match, because he was shouting to his corner. There was no crowd anymore, and he was shouting and having a reaction like if he had won the tournament, which I was almost surprised to see that.
Well, Ubaldo, I think it came about for the reasons that you just kind of alluded to. It's always weird when there's no crowd, particularly when you played most of the match with the cheering, with that great crowd. And Djokovic alluded to that. He really appreciated the atmosphere that the crowd created. But then suddenly they're playing that last set, and it's quiet. And he was also a little frustrated, Ubaldo, because he knew he should have maybe closed it out in the third set tiebreak. Then he had a break point for 4-2 in the fourth and Berrettini hit a really brilliant forehand winner off a pretty good low return. And so Novak kept having chances, getting close, and he was serving out in front in the fourth set. So he felt like he could almost taste the victory. And then finally, that last game was very tense with Berrettini fighting off a couple of match points and Djokovic finally prevailing. I think he was relieved, Ubaldo. He didn't want to play, in my opinion, he didn't want to play another tiebreak. Never mind the fifth set. I don't
Yeah.
think he another tiebreak.
Well, sure, especially after the little disaster that he made in
Right,
the previous
right.
because he was up 5-4 and he
Sure,
had two
sure.
serves,
Yeah,
and he made an incredible mistake with the forehand, which was only his seventh unforced
right,
error
right.
with the forehand, and then a backhand in the net.
They
And,
Waldo, they both were in the net, the forehand in the net and then the backhand. Those
yeah,
were terrible errors, and that was with a chance to ice the match, to put it away. He wins both points on his serve, it's over. Even if he won one of those 2 points, he would have been up match point. So I think
yeah.
he had to be upset with himself for that. You're right, but I also admire the way he competed in the fourth set himself and didn't dwell on what he had missed out on, and he just stayed and gave a great professional effort, as did Berrettini. I thought it was a
Well,
very enjoyable match, didn't you?
yeah, it was a great match. I'm really sorry, only because the crowd had to go out and
Yeah,
leave
yeah.
and they had to stop the match for 20 minutes when they were 3-2 in the fourth set for Djokovic, which was annoying. People didn't want to leave. People
Right,
wanted to stay
right.
there, and it was the similar score that Djokovic had to face when he played Fritz
Yeah,
in Australia,
right, right.
I mean, I honestly think that the tournaments should try to act differently. I know the COVID problem, the pandemia is a big problem, difficult to solve. But first, I think the French could have asked the government to, let's say, give the chance to those people, to the 5,000 people who bought the tickets, to have an extra, time to go home. I mean, I don't think.
Ubaldo, yes, I totally agree. Jim Courier was saying on our TV, on Tennis Channel, that apparently they were handing out pieces of paper, written statements for people like him and
Yeah,
people.
and myself.
You okay?
Myself.
So
I just came back. I just came back with my scooter, and I have a piece of paper that Roland Garros gave me authorization, since I'm working, that I could go beyond the curfew and come back home.
right.
And this is what I'm doing. And now it's my time is almost 2 o'clock. I just came back,
No,
and
it's too bad, Ubaldo. It's too bad. I know that's a lot of fans. I don't know how they could have organized it, but you wish they could have done something for them, the same thing, so that they could have they should be allowed to stay to the end of the match.
Yeah, I do agree, and not to interrupt the match for 20 minutes.
Right,
It happened.
right.
It happened the same thing in Rome for in the match that Sonego played versus Team. They went
Yeah.
to the third set. Sonego played brilliantly the second set. The
Uh,
public was enthusiastic, and they all wanted to stay, and they were obliged and forced to leave. And that was also such a pity, to be honest, that they played the third set with nobody,
yeah.
like tonight. Really
Right.
a lack of atmosphere.
Well,
I want to
Ubaldo,
add.
if
Yeah.
they were smart at Roland Garros, Guy Forget would hire you to take care of this problem. You would be in charge.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Steve, I can tell you this:
Yeah.
if I were Guy Forget, I would have said also that okay, TV are very important, but if this was the only night when there was a night session with the curfew postponed from 9 o'clock to 11, I would have said to the TV, okay, dear TV networks, I know that you're paying me a lot of money to have the TV rights, but you should let us start the match at 7 o'clock.
Yes,
Why do
yes, yes.
why do we have to start at 8 o'clock? That if
Right.
they go beyond the 3 hours, we have to send the people home. A slam should have the power to do that and say, look, TV are important. We accept the money. We know that how important you are, but you don't have to destroy a sport.
Ubaldo, you know, that's a very valid point. And I noticed that Medvedev made some similar comments. He didn't like the fact that he and Tsitsipas were playing with no spectators, and he thought it all had to do with television. You know, the television wanted to have the night session. He felt that he and Tsitsipas could have played earlier.
Yeah.
And I think that's another example where sometimes television gets maybe they give them too much, you know.
Probably so. It's also true that in the case of Medvedev and Tsitsipas, the French Federation had to put anyway one match at 9 o'clock because they were not allowed to go beyond. The curfew was at 9 and not at 11 like tonight. So one match had to. I mean, if they always played one match in the evening. Whether there was Tsitsipas Medvedev or another one they have to schedule it, you know, in that way.
A quick question for you. Weren't you impressed with this Tsitsipas's performance against Medvedev? I was very impressed, particularly not by the beginning. He was great up till 6-3, 3-1. I was more impressed with the way he stopped Medvedev in his tracks, saved 2 set points in the second set, came back from 4-2 down in the third. Because I think that match could have gotten away from him. I was very impressed the way he competed the last 2 sets to win in straight sets. Were you?
Yes, I was. But, you know, since the beginning of the tournament, I believe that Tsitsipas is more or less on the same level of Nadal and Djokovic.
Yes.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he would win the tournament because, to be honest, well, he may also lose to Zverev. I mean, it's not impossible. But if I think what happened in Rome. If I think what happened in Barcelona he had match point versus Nadal.
Right.
In Rome, he could have beaten Djokovic. So you know, the Tsitsipas is at the same level.
Hey, absolutely. Not to mention the great Monte Carlo performance, and then he won one more tournament at the end. I wrote a piece for a publication called UB Tennis. Have you heard of it?
No. But I know that somebody called Steve Flink is writing on that. He's publishing his stories.
I was agreeing with you, Ubaldo, because I wrote in that story the preview of the tournament. To me, when the tournament began, I could only see 3 players. Nadal was the clear favorite, then Djokovic, and then Tsitsipas. I couldn't imagine anybody else winning the tournament. Now, Zverev could still prove me wrong, but I doubt it because I think that Zverev has a decent chance against Tsitsipas. It's a hard match to call, but I don't think he then would. I don't see him then beating the winner of Djokovic and Nadal in the final. So I agree with your point. The three towering figures: Nadal, Djokovic, Tsitsipas, and Zverev he's in the mix for sure, and he's playing beautifully.
Yeah, I want to tell you another thing about the stats of tonight match between Berrettini and Djokovic. Djokovic made only 19 unforced errors. 19 unforced errors in 42 games. That means that he made less than 19 in 42. It's what less than one point. I mean, it's unbelievable.
But Ubaldo, you know what makes that impressive? Obviously, some would argue that because Berrettini is a little more of a streaky player and he goes for his shots and he's flamboyant and he's going to make the mistake first. But Djokovic did not press. Djokovic was very poised and he waited for his openings and he still was aggressive when he needed to be. So that stat is incredibly impressive.
Yeah. And then, Djokovic also made 77% points when he put the first serve and 65 when he put the second. While the difference was that Berrettini was 71% when he put the first, but only 42% when he had to serve the second serve. So that.
Well, you know what? funny thing is, Ubaldo, I felt like toward the end his second serve improved, but for a long time in that match, Djokovic was all over that second serve. The returns were coming back so deep. And
Yeah,
also, Djokovic, the first two sets especially, made some incredible returns off the Berrettini first serve.
yeah.
I actually thought overall the level was very high. Just for Djokovic, it was frustrating not to close it out in three, but it was a very high level of play from beginning to end, I thought, from both.
Yeah, yeah, and then in all the previous matches, Berrettini, when he was putting the first serve in, the first match it was over 90% of points made when he put the first serve in. Then he was always above 80. Only today he went down to 71, but it was because Djokovic is the best returner of the in the world.
Yeah, probably the best of all time. I think I really
Yeah,
believe it now. Even better than Agassi and Connors.
yeah, yeah. I do agree with you. I do agree with you. Oh, well, of course, at different times, different
Right,
serves.
right,
There you have to
right.
consider everything.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen. It may sound chauvinist, but I would like to know what you think about Musetti and his first two sets versus Djokovic, because those
Okay. Let's
were
tell you what I thought.
unbelievable.
I would tell you what I thought. He was brilliant. The variation was amazing, and his forehand was very explosive. I didn't think his forehand was that good before I watched this match, and he was really creating openings. The backhand was dazzling at times. What he could do from off the court, going down the line, curling those shots into the corner, down the line around the net post. I mean, he was magnificent. I did think, Ubaldo, though, that Djokovic was pretty nervous the first two
Yeah,
sets.
yeah, you're
And
right.
first set 3-1, 40-15. He didn't hold his serve. The tiebreak, he was a little tight. And then in the second set tiebreak, I thought he played very poorly, and Musetti did a great job. How bad do you think it physically was, Musetti? What was your view of what happened to
No,
him?
I spoke with Musetti
Yeah,
last night and
yeah,
with his coach, and he has been taking anti-inflammatory the whole week. He was suffering for some inflammation, more or less the lower back, and somewhere else, and then he couldn't move anymore. He said after the second set, and then one thing which is a sort of scoop that I have made that will come out tomorrow in my newspaper is that Berrettini has to give is we call it maturity exam. When you are 18 years old or 19, you have to pass the from high school to college, and he has to take exam in languages, and he was supposed to do it on the 16th of this next week, 16 June. So he couldn't uh, go neither Halle or Queens, but he wanted to play the next week. There were two tournaments, one in Mallorca and one in Eastbourne, just to practice for Wimbledon. But at the last minute, 3 days ago, the school said that they couldn't do the exam anymore on the 16th, but they postponed it to the 21. So he was furious because he cannot he didn't apply for a wild card or for anything in next week, so he cannot play neither Halle or Queens. But he cannot play no more also Mallorca or Eastbourne. So he will go to Wimbledon without any practice on grass.
that's
So
too.
so what happened that his tennis club, his little tennis club, they have a soccer field, and they are cutting the grass, and they're cutting the grass to prepare the soccer field in order to make a tennis court where he can practice. But who
Yeah.
knows what we will be that grass, because it for sure will be closer to Roehampton than to Wimbledon All England Club. That's
Sure,
for sure.
sure. But better than nothing.
Yeah, and then I want to tell you another thing that came out, which I think is also a little scoop. Novak Djokovic offered him a ride, a lift on his private jet to go to London. Because you know what? If you take a normal flight and you go to London, if there is one person who is positive for COVID out of 250 passengers, the players are disqualified. They cannot play Wimbledon.
Mhm.
So Musetti is terrified to go on a normal flight, because if he gets there and they find him that there is one passenger who has COVID, he is out of the tournament. So he's going to accept the lift that Djokovic will give to him and to his coach with his private jet,
And
which
what does that tell you? It's another example of Djokovic's generosity, his spirit, and his decency. He's a good guy, Ubaldo.
yeah. Correct.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Anyway, so we had also Sinner playing Nadal. You had three Italians in the last 16, which never happened since 1962.
Right, right.
But Sinner had only one chance in the first set when he was up 5-3. Then he served 5-4 and he lost
Yeah,
the game.
Ubaldo. I was very disappointed in the game at 5-4, the way he
Yeah,
played that. Such an important game. He served for the first set last year against Nadal, and understandable that he wouldn't come through there in the quarters last year. But this time, I thought he would have at least been more, not give so many points away with the forehand errors. And then he double faulted at love 40. The double fault went about 6 feet long. So
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
sorry about that, because I don't think he would have won anyway, but he needed that set.
Sure. And then, Nadal had won 35 sets in a row on clay, uh, starting from last Roland Garros and
Right,
this one.
right,
And
right.
today with Schwarzman, he lost his first set after 36
Right, right.
consecutive sets.
Yeah,
So
that was interesting, wasn't it, Ubaldo? I thought that when Nadal had won, he won the first set. He had the break, and then he lost his serve, and then Schwartzman was unable at 3-4 to, after coming back from love 40 to deuce, he double faulted, and then Nadal closed the set out. And then when Nadal came back in the second set from 3-love down and got back on serve, I thought he was going to win in straight sets. But at the end of the second set, that was and beginning of the third, that's when Schwartzman played his best tennis. I thought that's when he made Nadal a little uncomfortable from the baseline in the rallies. Did you agree?
yes, I do agree, but now I'm curious to find out from you if in your opinion, uh, uh, is in better shape and form Nadal or Djokovic?
Well, I think they're both playing very, very well.
Yeah,
I just think that's a hard question to answer. I
yeah, I
don't I don't
know.
I don't think there's a great difference. I think they're both very confident. I noticed Djokovic said in his press conference that he thinks he can win. He's
Yeah,
confident.
yeah,
And that's a different kind of statement that he was making after Rome. He was pleased with how he played against Nadal in Rome. This time he was very clear that he believes he can win, which is crucial. But I think the form is very similar. I thought Djokovic was great from the first 3 rounds. He did struggle the first 2 sets against Musetti, but he came back strong. And I thought he played overall today a very solid match, which is backed up by your stat on the 19 unforced errors.
yeah,
And the serving was very impressive, because he couldn't afford to be losing his serve against somebody who serves as big as Berrettini. He didn't want
yeah,
to give him any openings, and he didn't allow it. So I don't think there's a great deal to choose between and Nadal has been solid the whole tournament. And even though he lost the set today, he closed the match on a run of 9 straight games from 3-4 down in the third to 6-love in the fourth. And in this fourth set, he lost only 5 points the whole set, mainly because his forehand was just devastating. He
yeah.
just hitting it so freely, and he had not done that early in the match. So I think they both like the way they're playing.
Yeah. And do you think well, we cannot say that it's an anticipated final, as maybe some people would think, because as we said before, Tsitsipas is capable to beat the winner of
Yes,
those two.
yes, yes.
And right now they are 29-28. The rivalry is the biggest longest since Navratilova and Evert. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. No, it's magnificent. Now, one of the reasons I think Nadal is in a position to come back into a tie with Djokovic, because if he wins, it will be
yeah,
29, is that 3 of the last 4 matches they played have been on clay. He's been getting a lot of clay court, so this would be 4 out of 5, and if he wins, and that's nothing against Nadal, he deserves it, but it's I think it's the reason why he's closing in again, is
yeah,
that
yeah.
so many clay court matches and not as many on hard in the last few years.
Yes, and then we haven't mentioned the fact that if Nadal wins this tournament, he will go to 21 majors, 21 slams, and Federer will be left out in a way, left behind. I mean, not left out, left
Right.
behind
Yeah,
until.
no, which is remarkable, because you think about it, that Pete Sampras had the record with 14, and here's Federer comes along and he broke Pete's record in 2009 with Pete in attendance, and Borg and Laver there too, and and we thought then, as Federer added to his total, it looked for quite a while, even when Nadal would get closer, that it wasn't going to catch him. Yeah, at one point I didn't think he could catch him, and now here he is, poised to pass Federer in 2021. I never would have believed that 12 years later, there would be Nadal on the verge of breaking Federer's record. Remarkable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you mentioned Borg before, and I can tell you that Borg is coming tomorrow to Paris, even if his son today lost in the juniors. But
Yeah,
it's unbelievable how the son looks like to Bjorn. I mean,
he does. We've seen a little bit of him on our television. It's eerie. It's absolutely eerie.
yeah.
Sometimes you think you see Bjorn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's unbelievable. The same kind of eyes, look, even the way he plays his forehand. I mean, it's like watching Bjorn years ago with the Donny
Yeah,
racket.
right. We'll say this, Ubaldo. Bjorn is a very kind of self-effacing person. Now, you never forget, one day you and I were doing one of our pieces for YouTube outside the gates of Wimbledon,
Yeah,
and Bjorn was walking along, and you grabbed him on spur of the moment and asked if he would do something with you, and he did, and
yeah, yeah.
he did it very graciously, and I really admired that.
Yeah, yeah, he's very, very nice. Has always been very nice. I mean, anyway, so tomorrow I hope I'll see him, even if it's very difficult to meet people in this pandemic, because even the other players, we almost don't see them because when
Ubaldo,
they do.
speaking of seeing people, I know Chris Clary, the New York Times, is over there. Any other American reporters in Paris besides
Yeah,
Chris?
there is Matt, the other guy from New York Times.
Oh, yeah, right. Ben Rothenberg?
No, he didn't come. No,
Oh,
no, no.
Matt. I know who you mean. I know who you mean. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I can't remember his last name, but
Right.
Fatterman.
That's it. Yes. Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And well, we haven't said anything about Federer withdrawing. I mean, what was your impression? Because he beat Köpfer, then they made him play also at night, maybe his last match. But to be honest, the French Federation did the same with Tsonga and with Gasquet, who all were probably playing their last Roland Garros, being 35, 36, and they played with no public, nobody cheering,
Right. Right.
nobody clapping, a little sad, in my opinion. But I don't know why they decided that. They probably did it again for the TV reasons. But
Maybe I thought that we didn't get to see it here till the next day on the TV. I watched some of it on YouTube that night, and then I saw the whole match the next day on the Madison Square Garden Network, which is sort of under the auspices of Tennis Channel. It's one of their regional channels, as they call it. And what I found interesting was that Federer he had to find a way. It was such an unusual atmosphere for him, but he talked to himself a lot. He was really very emotive, almost with himself. And if he missed a shot, he would chide himself. And I thought it was a very interesting match to watch. And I did think that Koepfer took a lot out of him physically. The rallies were brutal at times,
well,
more longer rallies for Federer than he's accustomed to. So I wasn't shocked when he said he might pull out. I wish maybe the one thing I wish he might have done was to have said a little bit more about the importance of the French Open, because some people were taking it almost like he was just using it to practice for the grass.
Yeah.
And I know he has a lot of reverence for the tournament. And that's the only thing I regret, is I wish he might have said something more in the final statement about how much he values this tournament and how he wished he could have continued.
Yeah, well, he played 3 hours and 35 minutes,
Right,
and
right.
he didn't expect probably to play so long, so much without having.
No, Ubaldo, I think he made the right decision. I'm just talking about the way what he said in the statement. The decision, I think, was necessary, because I can't imagine he could have gone out and played Berrettini and been ready to compete at his highest level at all.
Yeah, especially the Berrettini that we have just seen.
Right, exactly. No, the Berrettini we've just seen would have beaten Federer in 3 or 4 sets.
I think so too. Even if you never know, because that then sometimes but anyway, well, let's say that some people, of course, was disappointed to not see him playing in the quarters of finals, but for sure, the way he played says that in Wimbledon is one of the potential, winners, maybe, because
no, he could be, Ubaldo. The big question is going to be, to me, is does he have enough time to get into his absolute best form? He did very well here to win 3 rounds, for sure. But now he goes and has one guy. He goes to Halle. I think it's very important for him to get as many matches in there as he can, and then to see if he can really then transfer it again to best of 5 at Wimbledon. Still will not be easy, but you're right. He will definitely be a big threat.
Yeah, it will be a big threat also because, of course, it will depend a lot on the draw. And if he has some easy, first rounds, he will be seeded number 8. So that saves him a little bit. He doesn't have to play the top guys until the quarters of finals. I mean, I don't know who will be in his section in the last 16, but I mean, it could go quite smoothly until the quarters, and then with 1, 2, 3 matches, who knows?
And that's, of course, we're assuming that his knee's going to be okay, which I think right now it's fine. I think this was precautionary what he did, but he has to stay healthy too, and obviously he's concerned enough. Was that you, Ubaldo, when I saw the press conference? Was that you asking Federer about Berrettini?
Of course. But that is a funny thing, I can tell you, and maybe our listeners will laugh about it. When you are asking questions by remote, even in the press room, you are not in the same room with the player. So it's like me and you now. I ask you to answer a question, and what happened? There were 4 or 5 people who had who had booked their questions, and I wasn't one of them. So there was no way I could ask, because I raised the hands by remote to ask a question, and the moderator didn't give me a chance. Then what did I do? I just show you, because I still have the book here, and maybe if I find the page, it would be funny, because you would understand how I did it. I wrote on a book let's say, what about Berrettini? Something like that,
Yeah.
And I put in front of my face the page of the notebook. You see? Okay, look at this.
Yeah. Right.
You see?
Right.
So while Federer, can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So Federer, like you, so that I was putting in front of my face this, and so he said at the end, Ubaldo, what do you want to know about Berrettini? That was the only way for me to communicate.
Yeah, but he said he didn't want to talk about it, right? Didn't
Well, no. Well, he said, he said, what should I say? What do you want me to say? Because I'm not sure I'm going to play.
right, right, exactly.
And I had no
That
microphone.
when he
I
said when he said that, Ubaldo, I was convinced he wouldn't play.
Yeah, me too. Me
Yeah,
too. And I wrote it. And then, since it was already 2 o'clock in the night, I was the only one, let's say, that could write it because everybody else had left. I mean,
right,
of the Italian press. So, and then on the website, you have no deadline. So I wrote it. I said, I don't think Federer will play Berrettini, and nobody in Italy expected. They all had left, and they all said to Monday there will be a big match between Federer and Berrettini, which never happened. Anyway,
right.
and then I had no microphone. So when he said, Ubaldo, what am I supposed to say? I couldn't say anything because I had no microphone to talk.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
anyway.
still a good response.
Yeah. So anyway, okay, I think we went through what would you like to say about the men's draw? I mean, you had I think we spoke, of course, of the last matches before the semis. We say
Well,
something.
looking ahead, do we want to look ahead to the men's semis or not?
Yeah, but we said already that between Nadal and Djokovic, everyone can win. I mean,
Yeah,
we wouldn't be surprised if any of the two would win. Probably Nadal, because of his story, as is slightly favorite. I
right,
mean,
right, right.
Nadal played 13 semifinals and won them all. Played 13 finals and won them all. So
Yeah,
once he's in the semis, it's
yeah.
difficult to beat him.
Pretty
Nobody has
difficult.
done it.
Although
Nobody has done it.
Djokovic almost beat him in that semi in 2013, one of the best matches that they've ever played, but Nadal got through that one in five. And now
Yeah.
I do believe though that Djokovic needs the first set of that match more than Nadal does. I think it's very important for Djokovic to get a good start and build something of a lead against Nadal. And then the other one, Ubaldo, I think it's very hard call because Zverev is serving so well right now and he's so confident. And yet Tsitsipas come off a very big win. And the last time they played in Acapulco, it was Zverev who won the match, but it's 5-2 overall for Tsitsipas in the rivalry. So I maybe give Tsitsipas a slight edge, slight.
Yeah. I would do the same. I mean, I do agree with you. And so I always say when we both agree, we probably both wrong. But but anyway, no. This okay. We look ahead, and on the rest of the tournament, did you see anything? That really surprised you? I mean, we didn't say anything about Medvedev, who had lost, I think, 4 or 5 times in the first round.
Four, yeah,
Four
four
times,
times, four
four
times.
times in the first round, and this time it showed that instead he's capable to play even on clay, even if he always said that he doesn't like clay. But now he seems to have changed his mind.
You know, he's a strange guy, Ubaldo. I'm glad he changed his mind in a positive way. I just don't know why it took so long for him to get it through his head that there's no reason he can't play. And I thought he actually, you know what it reminded me of, Ubaldo, so much. That match reminded me of Dominic Thiem beating Medvedev at the U.S. Open last year, where there were the last couple of sets of 5-3 for Medvedev. Medvedev had real chances, couldn't quite get over the hurdle and lost in straight, but played much better than the score would indicate. I thought he played quite well the last two sets against Tsitsipas. So he can come away from this tournament feeling like he has made some strides, and maybe next year he'll make he can be a serious threat here.
And probably he will not play a serve underarm on match point.
God. But not only does he do the underarm serve, he comes in behind it. He
Yeah.
keeps in behind it.
Yeah. He's crazy. He's crazy. But you know, I must say that I like people who are a bit crazy. That's why I don't like you, because you are too wise. You know, you're never crazy. I mean, you know, I remember Medvedev throwing the coins. Some
Yeah.
coins at the umpire in Wimbledon that I had never seen that before, you know. And
No,
I
you're right.
don't say that I don't. I'm not saying that I appreciate, but I
No.
mean
Oh,
was.
no, in that sense, he's fascinating. You just like to see him put his best effort forward, and he did that here. He did it here. He got through 4 wins and played a good quarterfinal. So that's a lot better than losing in the first round again. And I think, therefore, he'll go into Wimbledon in a pretty good frame of mind.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, listen, I think we have been talking about almost 40 minutes about the men's, and we have been a little chauvinist, male chauvinist, forgetting about women, where I must say that this tournament could be, once we are at the semifinals, could be they say, what is the smallest category of the WTA events? I mean, it's not a, how do you call it? It's not a major. It's not a premier.
Yeah.
It's the
But now
lower.
I think now they're going along with the men's label, so we call it like a 250. A
Okay,
250.
well, okay, this is 250 because we have Pavlyuchenkova, who is number 32 in the world, playing Zidansek, who is number 85, and the other semifinal is Barbara Krejcikova, number 33, playing Sakkari, who is number 18. At least she was one of the top 18 seeds, and that's unbelievable, to be honest. I mean, and it shows that the WTA, in my opinion, is in crisis because unless Coco Gauff comes out and become a star, a real star, because she's 17 and already she and Iga Swiatek, you never know. I mean, she I did expect her to do better and to be at least in the semifinal. And I was thinking she was going to win the tournament,
Oh, I
but
thought you would too. I thought she was going to win the
yeah,
tournament.
yeah.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, who is going to watch this? I mean, apart from the Greece, Greece has two semifinalists, which is unbelievable,
Yeah.
Tsitsipas and Sakari. But and apparently Sakari is the favorite because she is the best ranked players.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you imagine if Sakari and Tsitsipas would win the Roland Garros? I
Oh
mean,
my. No,
yeah.
I see your point. I understand your point. I think the big problem the women's tennis has is the continuity and having you want to see some familiar faces consistently winning. I think it would have been a good thing for Swiatek to win here again and reestablish herself and defend her title, and or Ash Barty to come back and win a second time. And you're right. If it's constantly people that the public doesn't know well, and that keeps happening, every major tournament is no good. I'm hoping that we'll get, Osaka. Osaka may not be ready for Wimbledon, but maybe by the Open she comes back, and maybe Barty is healthy at Wimbledon and she comes through, because I do want to see more repeat winners among the women at the majors.
Steve, the problem is that Barty, in the last 2 years, she played one tournament and then
Right,
she's always
right.
injured. She's always injured.
Yeah.
The Serena Williams is disappearing. I mean, from the bunch of I mean, of the real favorites in a major. I mean, even if maybe she will play better in Wimbledon
Or well,
than on clay.
yeah, I think she'll be more dangerous at Wimbledon and the Open. I thought that people talking up her chances in Roland Garros was a mistake, because she
Yeah.
never she never was going to win this tournament.
No, no, no. It's like it's a little similar situation to Roger Federer in a way because they're both reaching 40 years old. On grass, they have more chances because the points are shorter and they play more maybe aggressively and they can win some. They can play some winners, and which on clay is almost. Much more is much more difficult. So I mean, anyway, so at the end, the WTA they are losing Serena because of the age. They have Barty number one, who is almost always injured. They have the
Osaka.
Osaka, who has all these problems now, even mental, psychological, and is complicated her own life with her decision to not give press conferences, and she had to withdraw because she didn't know anymore how to come back from the situation that she created. Then you have Andreescu, who is another one who is always ill. I mean,
Always hurt,
always
unfortunately.
well. So I mean, to be honest, I don't. I've never seen a WTA in such a bad shape like now.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point, and yet there's more depth. In other words, I watch Sakari, I watch Krejcikova. You know, these they impress me. I love the way they play.
Yeah,
But on the other hand, we can't. It can't always be a new cast of players replacing the injured great players that you just mentioned.
yeah.
That's what I mean about continuity. We need that as well. We need people that are constantly getting to semis and finals and winning majors.
So when we hear Andrea Gaudenzi, my compatriot, who is the boss of the ATP, saying that we should join forces ATP and WTA, well, I doubt that he is really sincere and honest, because in this moment, what is the advantage of ATP to join it with WTA if WTA is in such a bad shape?
Yeah, I see your point. I'm a little more optimistic than you about where it may go from here, but the next two majors are going to be very important. Very important that we have good Wimbledon and U.S. Open for the top women, and hopefully we do get a healthy Barty. Hopefully we do get Osaka back by the U.S. Open, and Andreescu regains her physical health as well, because I want to see them in the forefront. We need some rivalries. We need rivalries among top players.
Yeah, maybe you should change your job and become a doctor and try to fix to help
No,
Andrescu and Barty to get fit and to get well.
I know you well enough. I think the one thing we do share is appreciation of the top women when they are playing well and they
Yeah,
are
sure.
healthy. The women's game is spectacular, so you don't want to see all these issues surrounding them. It's too bad.
Yeah. But I love watching them also because in a way, for people who are watching women tennis, it's easy to think that that kind of tennis is possible. I mean, because it's not just a consequence of how you serve and how powerful you are. So Barty is wonderful to watch when she
Oh,
plays well.
watch.
She has such a
Listen. I have to say, I do love watching Sakari. Sakari
yeah.
has a lot of spirit on the court and a lot of spunk, and she's improved. I see great improvement in her in the last 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. That's why. I mean, I don't want to be rude or say that women tennis is not good, but the problem is that it's missing characters at the top. And as you said, I mean, I mean, I don't expect someone to win as much as Chris Evert or Martina Navratilova or Steffi Graf or Serena Williams, but or Selish, but you need some names like those, I
Yeah.
mean, because if not, I mean, if can you imagine? I mean, Pavlyuchenkova, she's a very nice girl. She had beaten something like 35 top 10, and she was never a top 10. So she can play good tennis.
Yes.
Normally, she's not.
Yes.
But she played after 7 times in the quarters. This is the first time she gets to the semifinal.
But I
Uh,
will say, Ubaldo, you touched on her. I do think Coco Golf is going to be. I think this was a great tournament for her. Disappointing today not to convert the set points she had in the first set. She might have been able to be in the semifinals, but still, she's made a lot of progress this year. And I don't see her seemingly having many injuries. And she's got a great attitude, perfect
yeah,
temper, and she's a great. She can be she could be. I'd love to. I want to see her go deep into the draws at Wimbledon and the U.S. Open, and I suspect that she will. because her forehand is improved considerably, and she's not serving so many double faults now. She has a lot of talent and flair, and on top of that, she loves to play doubles.
Yeah, yeah. And then, she, in a way, is like for us, for Italians, now some are disappointed because Sinner is not doing so well as he was expected after last year. He made such a progress, and
Yeah.
and he's a top. He became top 20 so quickly, and so on. But these players like Coco Gauff, like Sinner, like Musetti, you have to think they need 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
or even four before becoming what they everyone is expecting. I remember Djokovic in his first years, when he was 19 and 20, he was often injured, or he had
Yeah.
to
Was.
retire. He had to retire because sometimes he was breathless, sometimes he didn't have any more strength to run. So it took a while. I mean, even
Yeah.
if it was, you know,
But Coco, she's gained a lot of experience in the last couple of years,
yeah,
so she's very mature for 17, and
yeah,
I'm encouraged about her. And Sinner, the last word on Sinner, Ubaldo, you must get somebody to work on his serve. I really believe the serve is holding him back.
yeah.
Too often he can't not just against Rafa, but you just can't count on him to hold serve in a critical moments, and that shouldn't be the case. His ground strokes are terrific. The serve needs to improve.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And he's also quite tall.
Yeah,
So I mean, so it's a mechanic problem. It's
yeah,
he has to find how to serve better, and to second serve must be more effective, but also first in terms of percentage of
yeah,
speed and everything. And
yeah.
I do agree with you. I do completely agree. But I remember that even Lendl, when he started to play, he was 19 or 20, didn't have such a great serve. And then slowly but consistently he worked, and then he got a very good serve. But
Right, right.
and even Mr. Djokovic didn't have that great
Oh
serve,
no, no, he
or
worked.
Rafa Nadal. I
Yep.
mean, Rafa
Oh
Nadal at the
no, you're
beginning.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Oh, it can be, no doubt. They all had to make improvements in their serves for sure. And I think Sinner can do it. And I think
Yeah.
when he does, it's going to make a big difference in his outlook and in his results.
Yeah. Well, probably the only player who didn't need to improve very much his serve was your friend Pete Sampras. No,
Yeah,
because really his second serve was unbelievable since he was a kid.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
but
Yeah,
but all the others have improved along the way. So I hope Sinner will do it too. Look, we have just to say very quickly, who do we think is going to win this tournament in the women's? I mean, who is going to win between Pavlyuchenkova and Zidansek, and who is going to win between Krejcikova and Sakari, and who is going to win the tournament?
I'm gonna say Sakari wins the tournament. I'm going with her to win, go all the way, take the semi and the final. What about
Okay. Yes, I may say that too, but in that case, I think the good story will be that Sakari and Tsitsipas win the tournament,
you? Yeah,
because my
yeah,
first my first Wimbledon was 1974, and you may remember who won Wimbledon in
of
1974.
course, of course.
It was Jimmy Connors and your good
Yeah,
friend Chris Evert, and
right.
they were dancing in the Wimbledon's ball,
Yeah.
the evening in Grosvenor Palace, I
Oh,
think.
okay. They were engaged to be married at that point. Yeah,
Yeah, and they danced together. The two champions. So I would love to see. I think it would be a great story. Tsitsipas and Sakari, two Greece that never had a tennis tradition.
But
Apart
it
from,
would.
if they win the tournament, that would be incredibly incredible.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, I think we have done almost 1 hour, 53 minutes. I think people cannot bear us enough. They
No,
don't.
you're
They
right.
don't want.
You know what the expression is, Ubaldo? They've had enough of us.
Yeah, they have enough of us. Okay, but I will never have enough of my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer Steve Flink. Thanks again for joining us, and of course, we will talk again on. I would say either Sunday night or Monday. We will decide when, depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
And so I give you disappointment to our listeners and viewers, and so long, who was going always to say so long?
Yeah.
Was that famous TV broadcaster from America, from the guy was saying, I can't remember his name, but he was a famous one who did 50, 40 Wimbledon, 40 US Open TV broadcaster, who unfortunately died 2 years ago, I think. You may remember.
Oh, Dick Enberg.
Dick Enberg, correct.
Yeah.
He was, how do you say, so long.
Yeah, absolutely. Good.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Okay.
You got it?
Wait. I'm arresting. They said arrest. Whoa, one moment.